everybody, and welcome to the Art of Becoming's podcast channel. And for those of you who are watching the YouTube channel, hey y'all, how y'all doing? Well, welcome back. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for today's show, you guys. But listen, right? Let me just introduce you to myself. My name is Jimmy's Holly. For those of you who are new to me, I am a licensed therapist, ordained minister, coach, speaker, trainer, but most importantly, listen, I am your friend. I am your friend through the journey of becoming. And most of the time, the journey of becoming is not pretty. It is messy. It got a lot going on. It's hurtful. You be crying, you be messed up. But at the end of the day, it becomes beautiful in its time. And we know that all things become beautiful in its time. And so you are going to be with us today. We got a good one for y'all. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just say it. Okay, let me just say it. Y'all know I have to say it in honor of my Uncle Steve, in honor of what God has done, because we have just celebrated a whole year of doing the podcast. We have celebrated this milestone for the Art of Becoming, and for myself to just walk out in faith and step out with whatever God has been doing as a result of this podcast. We'll get into that because that'll be the last show. But it is a year, and so y'all know I'm gonna say it. Jimmy's Holly got a radio show. Okay, Jimmy's Holly got a podcast channel. Jimmy's Holly got a YouTube channel. Whew, that does my soul right and my spirit every time. Okay. Every time. But we know, you guys, I say that because clearly this would not be possible without God. And every time I say it, it's a realization that, oh my God, look at what God has done as a result of my yes. And so I am so grateful, and I'm truly thankful for all that God has been doing with my yes. And that is what we're kind of going to be leading into today. And so you guys have been with me the last few weeks, and we've had several guests on where we are sitting at the well of wisdom of women's journeys who have been just coming out of their shell, stepping into greatness, and looking at what tools or what resources, what lessons, what wisdom we can pull from them to really figure out what did they do that will help me in what I need to do. And so we've came out of hiding with Lillian Jackson. We've been rediscovering the yes with Deshana Brown, and we've been dipping in the well with Delonda Johnson. And today we are going to be essentially allowing ourselves to be like phoenixes rising out of the ashes, right? With the rebirth as a result of obscurity being in transition. And so if you got your notes today, you got pen and paper. If you don't have that from the last few shows, you're going to definitely need that today. So I want to introduce to you guys a very special person in my life. Someone who I love, I adore. She's another part of one of my heartbeats. And I mean, just joy and love exudes from her all around her. And I am blessed to have her in my life and to call her best friend. So today, you guys, I want to introduce to you none other than Lindsay Leopold. Lindsay Leopold, oh my gosh. Okay, so because she's in transition, I can't call her what I want to call her right now. However, she has been known to be a very awesome African-American woman, Black chef who has just taken the world by storm through teaching people how to cook, teaching people to minister through the kitchen. And listen, she will definitely get you with a word, okay? Because that's where she at in her life right now. She gonna definitely make sure you are accountable to God. But she is definitely one who has walked her life through crazy faith, has launched out, walked on water. She's definitely one who's just been taking her life and saying, listen, I'm coming out and I'm taking the world by storm. And she's in transition now from becoming a chef, where she used to work at Sir La Top, this fancy restaurant. I think it was called Rez. She gonna correct it. She went to cooking school. She became chef school. We met long time ago. I think I'm just gonna have to let her kind of do the introduction of herself and her bio. But because her life is in transition right now, she is no longer going to be a chef, but she is going to make sure that she serves you well, make sure that you feel loved and cared for and supported now as a flight attendant at Alaska Frontier. And so I'm just going to bring on the stage with me, my boo, my bestie. Come on in the room, Lindsay. Hi. Well, I tried to introduce you the best way that I possibly could.
You know what? You did a very wonderful job. I'm so proud of you. You definitely missaid some words. I was like, wait, no, come back. But it's okay. You were
Which
close.
one was it? Which one was it?
You were right. It was Riz, culinary school.
Not cooking school. Okay, culinary.
And Alaska Airlines. Frontier is a whole different airline, best friend. It's okay.
Listen. You just gonna be traveling the world.
It is. It is.
So it's just Alaska Airlines.
It's Alaska Airlines.
I don't know why I saw Frontier,
because that is the airline. It's Alaska Airlines.
And give me Alaska Airlines and Frontier, but they might be a merge happening or something. You never know. I'm joking. But welcome to the podcast, Lindsay.
Hi guys.
Do you want to start off saying something to the good folks in the audience as they take a listen to this journey?
Yeah. Hey, peeps. Hey, party people. First of all, Jamise, I have to say, I am so beyond proud of you. You have to understand, being someone who has walked alongside and have seen you from the beginning. I remember when we were picking out your logo and everything, the stress of it all. And it's been a year. Yes. I am so beyond proud of you. You get a round of applause. You have been working so hard and diligent, and you are a powerhouse of a woman, and I am so proud of you. Yes, indeed.
Thank you, best friend.
I'd be like, that's my best friend.
Hey. Well, this is a space that you have helped curate, right? A space that you've helped pray over. Mm-hmm. I remember being in your kitchen, and we were like, well, so what we going to talk about, right?
Okay.
We needed topic, we needed structure, we needed outline. So the whole kit and caboodle kind of happened in Silver Spring. No, Gaithersburg.
It was Gaithersburg.
And while you were at that point, you were teaching from your kitchen virtually, and in the heart of the pandemic. And so,
funny enough, this is kind of going fast forward, but I was about to transition and change my life, not knowing that was about to come. So while we were preparing you for what God had called you to do, I was teaching from my kitchen, but I remember I was also working at Brightview Senior Living, and that was a really difficult time in my life. And I just needed a way out, but I've been praying for that, not realizing that right around the corner, that way was coming, and it came, and I answered the call, and now I'm here. So there's a lot in between all of that.
We always used to say our journeys we're never probably doing the same thing, right? We weren't doing the same thing, but the way that our lives moved in trajectory,
very parallel.
Very parallel.
Yeah.
Every time you were moving, something was moving in my life.
Yeah.
When you were moving, I was like, oh no. Like, I always get something's coming. If Lindsay's in transition and I'm in, we'd be like, oh, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
And so I think even when you were moving, when we'll get into that, I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. It was a lot of scary that was happening, but a lot of things came into fruition.
Yeah.
You were just ahead of me a little bit in that regard.
But I feel like in relationships in general, I think some people, like you'll be ahead, then I'll be ahead, then you'll be ahead, then I'll be ahead. It's not per se a competition. It's more like we legit just are toe and toe. Our friendship has literally been toe and toe from the very beginning, and even through the rocky moments, we're still toe and toe.
I know. Okay, well, let's just introduce the good folks to how we even met. Like, how did we even become friends?
Oh, so you gonna make me start?
No, you don't have to start.
Oh,
I can lead in with intro.
Okay. Go ahead, friend.
Well, let's just say it was like 2006, right? It's been well over like 15, almost 14, 15 years. And my math is probably really off. 2006, 2022. Is that 16 years?
Just know I'm going to say yes with anything you say. Math is not the forte. Mm-hmm.
Math is not the forte. So it's been well over 10, 12, 15 years at this point that we have been friends. But we met at just working at Discovery Communications, y'all.
Hey.
Discovery had a lot that came out of it. It was a really great job, but not where I wanted to stay with my life. But a lot of great things came out of it. And one of those great things were our friendship.
100%.
And so, y'all, I first met Lindsay. She came to my cubicle. Well, she sent me an email one day about needing help with like a T&E expense because I used to work in the accounting department. And I was like, well, yeah, you can come up here and I'll show you, like, no problem. And this young, vibrant young girl came up into my cubicle and she was so funny and so sweet. And so I was just helping her. And then that was my initial like interaction with Lindsay. And then she was actually going to be interviewing for the job of the team that I was supporting. And then Robert came on the floor, was like, who knows Lindsay Leopold? And I was like, oh, I do. He was like, what do you think about her? I was like, love her. He was like, why? I was like, I don't know. I mean, just something about her. She just gives so much joy. She laughs. She's fun. I was like, why are you hiring her? He was like, I just need to know if somebody knew her other than my interview with her. And I was like, oh, you need to hire her. And so from that day on, Lindsay was in my group at Discovery, and every other point of contact, I think we was just in each other's cubicles
all the time. We got in trouble because we were always in each other's cubicle. I mean, we got in trouble. Okay, so you handled the T&E for all of Discovery. Communication. I was the executive assistant to Robert and the team. So like I had to help out with everything. My hand was in everything. But every day for breakfast, I was in your cube. Before we went to lunch, we were in your cube, you, me, and Tavoya. And then at the end of the day, we conjugated around either your cube, Tavoya's cube, or mine. And it wasn't really mine. It was you or Tavoya. And we were just, the three of us were always together. It just happened that way. Yeah.
And then I know you were, and it seems that a lot of our friendship, I think I even shared this with you, like had points of turns that where we would just get closer and closer. And I think that even when it comes to layers of friendships, just how much friendships can evolve, the more you grow and evolve personally. And with you, I think I see that the more you evolve in your relationship with God and Christ, the more you get closer in the dynamic with your friendships. That's just a testament to our friendship.
I 100% agree with that. I mean, but I feel like that's how he created it to be. At least I can't, I should speak for everybody, but for me, the more I get in tune with God, you're typically the first person to be like, oh, I can tell you've been reading. Oh, I can tell you've been praying, because it reflects on when you and I are talking and we're having conversation and you might be dealing with something. I'm like, well, I read this today, or God spoke this to me, and I think this was actually for you, because our lives are pretty parallel in a lot of the things, a lot of the moves that we make. So yeah.
I mean, but let's go a little deeper into that, because it's not just when I'm going through something. Okay, when I'm like minding my own business. And Lindsay being her word, y'all. Lindsay, and I'm gonna come with an example and be
Please.
open, and transparent.
Okay, be hot.
When me and Carl were getting married, and we were going. Okay, wait. Let me pause here. We've had turns and pockets to our friendship, right? And
Yes.
so our friendship definitely grew over time with like our relationship with God and young adult ministries and things that we were doing separately, but yet collectively. And so when it came down time for Carl and I were getting married, and we were facing turmoil, it was
Amen.
just a tumultuous time for us. And I was like, well, we're just going to move in together to save money. Y'all look at
Well,
we
mind you,
we just gonna make this happen because this is the most sensible, logical answer to our problem. Like we could save money that way, we'll be good. We're still waiting, so we're not gonna have sex. Like we had a whole plan.
They not
And
gonna have sex, girl.
Lindsay was quiet, y'all. Lindsay was quiet. Now, I'm not saying that if you choose not to be celibate or if you choose to shack up before you get married, that is your decision. That was where we're celibate for our wait. And then we also were deciding to move in together to logically save money. And you got to have a friend that know the word. Because Lindsay, when I was minding my own business, had already made our decision. That thing came in like a mighty wrecking ball. It was like, best friend, I don't know if, I'm overstepping my bounds here, but I'm just going to park this and leave this here. And I really think you should think about your decision because the word in my devotional, just laying it on thick. Okay, you guys. And the spirit of conviction was on us so bad that we couldn't even do it. And so, Lindsay, even if we just going through something, but even when we just minding our own business,
yeah, man,
you come in with a hook.
I mean, you do the same thing to me, so I mean, we even.
Personally, it's all love. It just don't feel good on the receiving.
But that's what makes a strong relationship, to have the person that's not going to just be like, yeah, girl, go ahead and move in. Because deep down inside, also, I know that's not what you really want to do because you were beginning your journey. Like you were so heavy at Mount Eden. You started the adult ministry. And I'm like, how are you representing? Like, no, friend, we can't reel that decision back in. We're not going to do that.
We can't do that.
Yeah.
And so that is like the nature of having like a best friend who knows you, who loves you, supports you, that even when, you may not be making the best decision for you deep down on the inside, it's like a conscience there. They're like, hey, I'm going to sit this here, but you still decide. But if you for real, I think you should think about it again. So that's what you were able to offer.
Blessings.
So, but that is almost like a little intro to us and our friendship. And our friendship has evolved through hard times and difficult times, and even with the marriage. And we had a big fight about, my bridezilla moments. And
y'all,
I'm gonna quit me. She was.
I'm about to quit. I said, "Nah, I can't be your friend. This is too much. Team, too much. I quit." I even made your sister upset with me. I knew she was gonna be mad at me, but I was like, I can't take it. Here. You know what? That scene, that the event of that our fight reminds me of. Remember when Will Smith and Tisha Campbell they were in the basement, and she was like, hit. I feel like after you went through your little thing, and I was like, you know what? Here, and I just spilled it out because I was like, you can have it. Take it all, friend. And that's what that scene reminds me of.
It very much does reflect that. Just so you know, guys, like I was literally having like a lot of control issues that I could not let go of during the wedding process, and I was bugging Lindsay like, just give me a hint, like because everybody was trying to surprise me. I didn't do well with surprises. And clearly it was reflecting that when me and Lindsay were having our big argument. But it was
In
good
the
old
middle of
Sharon
the
back
work,
then.
but it wasn't the middle of the work floor. We had this argument in the middle of the work floor. I was like, this is the most unprofessional I have ever been. That's how you took me. I was like, I can't be friends with her.
Like,
And
I
poor
think it was like
Tavoya,
8:30 in the morning too. It was like right before.
and poor Tavoya was like, no, Lindsay, no. I was like, I can't. This is too much.
Boya had a calm. She was the calm in the
She
storm.
was the con. Yes.
But thank God for Sharon, because Sharon, Miss Jackson was the one who was like, y'all going into this conference room, y'all gonna have this conversation, sit down and don't come out to y'all friends.
Okay.
And I was like, listen, Lindsay, you can't quit me. Like, my wedding is like in what, a month and a half, 2 months. So like, you can't
I'm
quit
out.
me. Like,
But I had back then, and I'm still working on it. I had the spirit of
deuces.
I deuces.
You
Quick.
had the deuce spirit.
Once I reach my max, I'm like, I'm out. I can't. But I feel like I've gotten better at that, best friend.
I think you have.
Yeah.
I think you have. You've grown from that.
Mm-hmm.
And well, speaking of your growth, and so we're here talking about the rebirth and obscurity in transition. And so, would you like to just give the good people of why that is the chosen topic for you?
Oh man, did you see the?
I saw that. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Because it's a lot. I where do I even start? I'll start like a year and a half ago, 2 years. So this is a really big topic for me because in the past 2 years, I have gone through a rebirth. And I love in your intro when you said it's like rising from the ashes of the phoenix. And like, that's what I feel like I have gone through or I'm going through because I'm still in my transition. I believe I'm still in my space of obscurity. And I'm still kind of riding that wave. I am typically someone that is really clear on my vision. I typically I set a goal for myself and I execute until I get the goal. If I want a job, I go after the job. I have a big go get it attitude. I don't let anything kind of get in my way. That's how I've always been. You might even say I might be a little controlling. I'm a true Capricorn in that way. And so career wise, I've always progressed in my career, right? So we met in Discovery. This was around the time where I thought I wanted to be in communication and I wanted to, be the next Oprah. And then I ended up into the accounting team. But that's where I learned fundamentals of teamwork and how to manage a team and watching one of the greats, Robert Kahn, and really having his ear and just learning from there, right? And then funny enough, when you decided that you were going to transition and follow what God had placed in your heart, like a month and a half later, I felt called because I was so unhappy at Discovery and I needed to transition. I needed to do something else. I knew that I was called to something more. And in prayer and fasting, crying, and just asking God what was next, I realized culinary school was it. And I even remember when I decided it, but I didn't really have a plan. The only plan I could come up with was going to Robert and saying, listen, I need you to fire me so that I can collect unemployment and I can go to culinary school. And he was like, nope, come up with a better plan because I need you. So you need to come up with something else. And I was like, okay. And it all worked out. Funny enough, you leave to go pursue ministry.
School, yeah.
You went back to school. And I was like, okay. And then a month later, I put in my 2 weeks.
Yes.
And I said, all right, if I'm going to do this, this is where that was the result of the yes. I heard it clear as day. I felt like he called me to it. My family, some members were supportive, some not so much, but I felt like I was in this. So let me just commit to it. No one really believed that I was going to go to culinary school. They were like, what? Okay. So I do it. I quit. I go to culinary school, and that was the most life-changing thing I had ever experienced. I remember my first day of culinary school. I was so excited. I had like the bubbly guts because I was just so excited. I didn't know what to anticipate. Every day was insane. I remember you used to live in Briggs Cheney. I would come to your house. I would write out my essay. Carl would edit it and be like, no, like you guys, Carl is hardcore. Her husband, he's a great editor, but he is hardcore. But
you gotta remember though, but you got that scholarship.
He got me the A and I got the scholarship. I was like, bet. And what I realized in those moments, especially in the beginning of my transition, because I said yes to God, and not that it was easy, it was never easy, but the transition, it flowed. There wasn't fight back. Things happened within the transition that continue to confirm for me that this is what he was calling me to do in this moment, right? And in my heart of hearts, I just felt like I had such a passion for food and service and giving to people, and I just wanted to grow that. So in my career that I didn't even anticipate having, in my career, I just grew. I set my mind. I said, okay, from culinary school, I worked at Riz. You definitely got that. I learned a lot. From that space, I became a private chef for family in Potomac. They helped me learn different things. Then from there, I go to running a culinary program and then staying there for 5 years at Sur La Table, but in different locations. And this is where I really grew in management, learning how to speak to people, learning how to be articulate and charismatic in front of people and presenting people and getting people excited about cooking and demystifying the idea that cooking is scary. Like I could do this thing in my sleep, but then I started to feel that feeling again, like I had a discovery. I'm getting tired of this, God, but there has to be more. I don't feel like I'm helping people enough, right? And so in that space with prayer, I prayed, and I was like, God, I know you have something more for me. I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to follow you. I said that prayer. A week later, I found a job that was looking for a director of dining services for a senior living community. I've never done that before. I was like, okay, we'll see. In less than a week, I had already 3 interviews that I aced. I got the job. I was like, God, this is amazing. I was making more money than I've ever made. I was able to purchase a home. And I have to tell you guys this. I purchased the home the day before the pandemic hit. I mean, it went through. This is what I mean by God literally was just walking me through these places of transition. I learned. But then during the pandemic, I was only at my current job for going on 2 years, and it became extremely stressful, very hard. I started to gain so much weight. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was so unhappy. I was hiding away from my friends and my family. I was depressed, not really realizing I'm depressed. And I went away. I went to my boss and I was like, listen, I need to get away. I need to do something and I need to get away or else I'm going to go crazy. So I went away for a week and I took myself to Virginia Beach. I asked you where you went on your trip. I went to the same hotel. I was like, best friend was there. I'm going to go. If she said it's good, it's good. I go and I sit by the water and I pray. And during my trip, I said, God, I know there's more. Those are the words I'm always saying. I know you have more. How can I serve you more? And that was the beginning of my rebirth, because in that conversation with God and in my prayer at the beach, I started to forgive people that I felt hurt me. It wasn't a place where I was like, give me more because I want more. It was like, I'm in search of peace. What do I know that's going to give me peace? Letting go. And how do I let go? I got to forgive something. That's the only way I knew that if he could pour into me, I had to let some stuff go. So I started to ask God for forgiveness. And I started for forgiveness for me, people who I was not best of friends with. I started to forgive them. People were coming in my head, so I would pray for them. And as soon as I was doing that, I get a call from a friend of mine who's in Seattle who started a business, and he's like, "Hey, I want to fly you out to Seattle, and I want you to see if you would be interested in moving to Seattle because I think that you would be great here." And I was like, "What? What? Okay." So I take 2 weeks from my job. I fly out to Seattle and I fall in love. And I come back from that trip and I put in my 2 week notice. I mean, I actually gave them a month and a couple weeks. And then I said, okay. And that's when my other transition came. And I transitioned over to going to Seattle and starting my life. What I didn't realize was this transition was not about starting a career or another career. It wasn't about food. It wasn't about helping my friend build his empire. That was a place for me. My rebirth was God telling me, you've been doing everything that I've asked you to do, yes, but you've also been doing things that you shouldn't have been doing. And you've been making decisions that you shouldn't have been making. And now you're tired and everything isn't working properly. I need to reset you. You need a rebirth. And so my first month in Seattle, I slept and prayed and I cried and I called Jamise and I called my family. And as much as I missed them, I realized I needed the time for just he and I. And in that space, I received healing. I received, my brain had never been so clear in my mind. I decided I was going to experience things that I never experienced before. I went fishing. I know for some people but for this Haitian girl, we don't go fishing. I don't do fishing. Okay. I fell asleep on the boat because I was so bored. All right. But I did it. And I was like, okay. I met some wonderful people and I realized that I love the life of excitement and I love servicing people and I love talking to people and just finding a way that I could be a part of other people's lives. I also realized I love to travel and I don't mind doing it by myself. And I also realized I didn't want to do food anymore. Food is always going to be a passion because that was my first love. But I also realized, and it took me time in therapy to realize that in the space of obscurity, it's okay to try something else out, try a different career out. And when I was trying to figure out what my next move was, I legit was at an airport and I was like, I could do this. And I love to travel. And honestly, I want to see what's happening behind the scenes, like how they catch certain people in the airports that be like I'm nosy. So I was like, I feel like if I become a flight attendant, I'm gonna find all the tea. So that is another reason why I was like, okay, God. And then every time he's transitioned me over to something new, not that it wasn't hard, but I didn't have I didn't have to fight through it. It just things would happen. They would fall into place, which confirmed for me that this is what the next move will be. And so it's going to take me over to the West Coast again in February. And that means I leave my family, but I also feel like God was like, because you're going to be traveling, I'm going to give you this time to be with your friends and your family, to love on them and to get some love because I'm going to have you back out there and servicing other people. And so that's the whole gamut of my rebirth.
And now, that's not the whole gamut. So, well, I think that is a synopsis.
Okay, right? So that's fair.
The good old summary of your journey.
Yes.
But let's like pair this with the art of becoming and the becoming of Lindsay Leopold. When you hear the art of becoming, what comes to mind?
The art of becoming.
In one word, yeah.
I've used this word pretty often. Transition is the word that I hear.
Mm-hmm. And so what about your becoming journey? What is one word that you would use for yours? Is it transition as well?
It's peace. Because in the beginning of my journeys, always in the beginning of each of my journeys, sometimes I feel like I'm going crazy, like I'm the only one experiencing this or that I could be making the wrong decisions. And then God has a way of coming in and basically telling and confirming for me that no, there's a reason why I have you in this space. He confirms it for me. And then I get a level of peace. And even in the moments where I'm like, I don't see how this is going to work out. I don't know. I don't have the money. How am I going to pay for this? There's always a way where he works it out for me. And I'm like, okay, why do I forget who you are? Because you're clearly a God who provides. So, and then I always get peace.
Now, I know the peace don't look like peace in the beginning. What the peace look like before you get, what did it look like before you get the peace?
Girl, I told you I be struggling in the beginning. I be like confused. The struggle be real. I mean, it's
talk to the folks about the struggle.
Well, because you make your mind up to do something. Okay, I can only speak from my experience.
Of course.
You know, when I remember when I first decided to become a flight attendant, I didn't want to share this with anybody, not even with you. I didn't want anyone to know. I was dealing with embarrassment, and I had to talk through my therapist with this because, you know, for me, I'm like, people know me as someone who always has a plan and a vision, and I'm 40 years old. I shouldn't be going through all these transitions, and I should have I should be making more money, and I should have a lot more status and all these things. And she quickly reminded me, Lindsay, your life has been transition. Based off of what you told me, you've always been in the space of change, and it always works out. And I was like, okay, facts. Okay. And she was like, you're embarrassed for what? People, this is your life to do with it what you deem fit. And if you believe that God is calling you to do this, who are you to walk away from this? And who are you to worry about what someone else has to say? And I was like, okay, facts too. Okay, facts too. It just took me a minute to not be embarrassed. And after I kind of let that sink in for myself, I prayed about it. And God just reconfirmed that I am his chosen, and he loves me, and he will never leave me nor forsake me, and that I am his and I belong to him. And that no matter something else that I learned in my journey is, I know I constantly would be like, God, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? What do you da? And one of the pastors that I follow, Pastor Tim Ross, he says, God, it's not always God, where do you want me to go? He just wants you to go. Remember, he'll meet you where you are. Just go. And so when I kind of let that also sink in, I was like, Lindsay, just become the flight attendant. If that's what's going to make you happy right now, do it. And then he will meet you where you are. And if he has you to do more, he will have you to do more. And then you'll do exactly what he calls you to do, because you have to be obedient. And I'm like, that's where the peace comes in, because things kind of get cleared up for me and I have understanding. But in the beginning, when it's not clear, we're lost in the sauce, don't know what's happening, and we're confused, and we're like, whoa, it becomes overwhelming. You feel like you're going crazy.
Yes.
And you're not. And the other thing that I learned, and this is something that God really, really had to work with me on, especially because this past year, I've had a history where I don't listen to my own intuition. I allow other people to kind of direct that because I'm so worried about what other people have to say. And so in my time of obscurity,
you were worried about what other people
I used to.
Past
tense worry, yes, about what other people thought or had to say about what was happening in my life. And now the first person I listen to, or second after God, would be me.
Yeah. So, and I think what's really important is because your transition from being a chef, which you're amazing at, and it's even hard for me to adjust that, oh man, food isn't going to be your number one thing anymore, right? Because when you think of food, the first person I would always think about, oh, you need to talk to Lindsay, right? We need to reach out to Lindsay. Oh, and so I am reminded that when it comes to purpose, right? Like our purpose never changes, but it's our assignment that does.
Come
And so
on here.
you have spoken about different assignments that you carried out that has prepared you thus far for this space of transition.
Yeah.
But your rebirth has come as a result of your time in obscurity.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just massage the time in obscurity?
Yeah.
Because I know the good folks want to know. It's almost like this, because obscurity means to be unimportant, unknown, or you're hidden for a time. And so your space of obscurity, can we just unveil that a little bit to kind of give the people, one, what was revealed to you during that time? What did it look like during that time? And then how did you even get to the point of allowing there to be a rebirth as a result of your obscurity?
So I have to start by saying I didn't realize I was going through obscurity until technically until we went to transformation conference.
That is just like the Lord.
Right. And while he was describing what that definition was, I remember looking at you like, oh my God, I was in obscurity. I didn't even know it. So a lot of the results, I don't even really know that I'm in the result until someone else points it out. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest about that. It was never like, aha, for me. What obscurity looked like for me, now that I had time to realize that I was in it, it was quiet. It was me being still. It was a lot of letting go. Now, physically, I was in a studio apartment by myself. Please keep in mind that I have a 2-level, 3-bedroom, 3-bath condo here in Maryland. I bought this place. This was my first place. I'm very proud of this place. But I quickly realized, thank you. I'm very proud of myself, but I quickly realized that God allowed me to purchase this home because he knew that I would be leaving to go in this place of obscurity with him, and my mother needed a place to live. And so this is where she was going to be. So he took care of her while he was taking care of me. And in this space of obscurity, because that was taken care of, I didn't have any other responsibilities but to focus on me.
Wow.
That's all I had to worry
about. Provision was made. So there's provision in obscurity.
There's provision in obscurity. God definitely provided so that I could only focus on he and I. And I remember even a year before, I made a comment to you and our friends, and I was like, I want to focus on my what is it?
Your 3 H's.
My 3 H's, my health, my house, and my husband. My 3 H's. Not realizing.
No, it was the other way around. It was your house, your health, and your husband.
Yeah, the husband was the third thing. The 3 H's. It just came to mind, right? That's God speaking. And I'm not married. She is still very single. All right, y'all. However, but in this space, I wasn't even.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. We have to reframe that.
What do you mean?
Yes, you are very much single, but you are being kept for someone. So
yes. I was gonna get there. Yo, okay, I'm not the best. Okay. Thank you, best friend. Thank you. But the space of obscurity, he really I remember crying out. There was a lot of crying, like a lot of shedding. I just remember crying out and saying to him, him crying out and him reminding me that although I'm here physically alone in the studio, I am not lonely because he's with me. And I hadn't felt safe like that in a while. And because I was so connected to him, I would wake up in the morning, I would go do a workout with Sakria, I would go back to sleep after I would shower, I would go for a walk. And the thing about Seattle that I love, it's so scenic. And you have water and mountain on either side of the island. I felt like I was breathing in fresh air. So I always wanted to be outside. If it rained, I just wanted my locks to get wet. This is the most natural space I was ever in, the most vulnerable. I learned in that space how to be vulnerable with him, how to speak up for myself. In that space, I would listen. I would just be in my apartment. Either I would be putting some music on, dancing and being free, or I would just be still and quiet so I could hear. A lot of just reading and going for walks. And again, as I said before, I wanted to experience new things. I wanted to meet other people that I don't think I would ever really meet before, and having conversations and, just doing things that I wouldn't do while I was home in Maryland. And it helped me to rely heavily on him, but more on me. I really just learned to trust me and my intuition, and listen to what I want and say no to the things that I don't want. I used to be a yes person, and I was like, no, we're not doing that no more. Nah, she's not doing that.
So essentially, what I'm hearing you say is that the space of obscurity really helped you to discover you all over again.
100%.
And in salvation, you have to be born again, right? You accept, that's the language, you're born again,
right?
And so there was a rebirthing of Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
And who is Lindsay now? Can you do a compare and contrast for us of who was Lindsay before versus who is Lindsay now?
Oh,
the rebirth.
Yeah. Ooh, Lindsay before was
maybe somebody in the audience can find themselves in the Lindsay before.
Yeah, that's so good. The Lindsay before Obscurity was someone that lacked discipline, someone who didn't care, who didn't put herself first, who put everyone else before her, and didn't see the importance of that. The Lindsay before was prideful. I had a lot of pride. Was afraid to speak up and say when she needed help, when she wasn't doing so well. Would hide away. I'm good at a hideout. I knew when my friends would come looking for me, I knew I had to pop up right before they were going to come and get me, because I didn't want to have to explain myself. That's the Lindsay before. This go around, after being in the space, and again, I still think that I'm still in the space of obscurity. I'm just towards the tail end of it. I am so much more vulnerable. I smile from the inside out. I listen to me. I listen to my voice. I have learned to speak up for myself. I know that I'm not by myself. Funny enough, just yesterday, I was walking the dog, and usually in my walk with my dog, because my area is pretty big, that's where I get my steps in. And in that walk, I'm doing my prayer. And in my prayer, it was literally just a prayer of thanks. Like, I'm like, God, I'm just thinking back of how a year ago I was 35 pounds heavier. I couldn't breathe, really. I was so unhappy and depressed. I was crying all the time, and no one knew how much I was suffering. And now, although things are hard, I have no worry in my heart. I have no worry in my heart. Yes, I know that it's real out here, and I know I'm broke as a joke, and the struggle is real, but I still have joy in it, because I look forward to seeing how he's gonna make things work. I actually go, what you about to do? How you about to do this? And when he does, I'm like, yo, that's why you the G. Like, I get excited in those moments. I do.
Well, I mean, one, you're in transition.
Yeah.
And you transition from being a highly sought after chef, right,
Mhm.
to now being and going into a flight attendant. And it seems as though the character traits that you developed in Obscurity is helping you in where you're going. And the character traits that you had before weren't helpful for where you were.
Mm.
So now can you kind of talk about how are you maintaining the things that you've built as a result of your Obscurity? How are you maintaining that with this level of peace, with this
Mhm.
level of no worry, and how God's going to do something or move? You trust this. It sounds like a complete trust.
Trust, yeah.
Um, so how are you allowing yourself to maintain what you've received in Obscurity now as it's going in transition to where you're going as to serve God as a flight attendant?
Well, one, I remember that although the title of a flight attendant or the position, you know, I look at it as I'm serving someone else. The title may change, but I am still in service of other people. And that's what I've always felt like my purpose is. And so I maybe in 2 years I'll transition into something else. I hope not. I hope that I finally find something that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna stick to it. But either way, I know that I will always be in servicing of others. That's where my the purest joy comes in. How I maintain this, um, it's really important for me to stay connected to hearing his word, because that's how, while I was in Obscurity, I would hear him speak to me. I would see what he would do. I will never forget, prior to me moving to Seattle, 6 months before, I could not get my period. And I knew that it had to do with stress. I also suffer from PCOS. And so my body was just out of whack. And whatever I did to try and get it, medication, going to the doctor, nothing worked. Okay. And a month into me being in Seattle, remember, I was sleeping, I was breathing, I was drinking water, I was allowing my body to do what it was meant to do. And I will never forget, I was watching Transformation Church, and Pastor Todd, he was actually talking to women who were struggling to have children. And he said, any woman that's having issues with their womb, take your hand and put it on your womb and speak these words and believe it with your heart that you will be healed. And
Yes.
got up from I got up from the bed. It was early Sunday morning. I got up from the bed and I'm walking around and I am crying, and I said, God, I'm going to get my period. You are going to heal my body. I will never miss another period again. I know that you will take care. I mean, I am speaking life. Okay. And then the day goes on. The next morning, I wake up in the middle of the night, and my lower back always starts to hurt when I start to get my period. But because I hadn't gotten my period so long, I forgot that that was a symptom of mine, right? So I'm like, I can't lay down. My back hurts. I don't know. And I don't ever get cramps. So I go, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. I go to use the restroom, and I don't know, I pee, but I feel extra wet. I don't know how to explain it. It didn't feel like regular pee, y'all.
Welcome to the humble, open, and
It didn't feel like no regular pee pee. Okay, so I go to the bathroom in the dark. Y'all know you all go to the bathroom in the dark in the middle of the night. You don't want to turn on the light like me, so I don't turn on the light. But this time, I pee. I wipe myself, and I'm like, this don't feel. So I turn on the light switch, and I'm like, oh my God, there's blood. Oh my God, there's blood.
blood.
And I said, oh, I couldn't stop saying, oh my God. And I was crying sitting on a toilet. I said, God, you worked that quick. Like we just said this on Sunday morning. It's Monday morning. I call my mother. Mind you, we're 3 hours ahead. So
Right.
I'm like, what's the matter? Because it's like the middle of the night. And I tell her, I got my period. And she started crying because that was the one thing she was like, I want you to get your period before you go. so that she would feel like I was healthy. But I said,
Healthy.
no, I got it now. And it was
Mm,
just like a weight. So
mm,
I know that when I stay connected to him, I know that I'm okay. I know I'm safe and I'm sound
mhm.
and I'm whole. It's when I don't stay connected. It's when I don't read. It's when I don't do what I was doing, the disciplines that I was doing. It's even when I don't go for a workout. If I
Right.
tell myself I'm going to go do it and I don't do it, there's a level of Lindsay, you made that promise to yourself. We worked on this, remember? I go through
Mm,
this whole thing in my mind. And I'm like, we're
yeah.
not going to go back to that. We're going to stay in the discipline.
Yeah.
So I have to just stick with the disciplines that I've created, spending time with him, reading, um, and then I'm okay. If I get out of that, everything's off.
Right.
Everything's off. Mhm.
So the key to your maintaining a sense of or the rebirth and the restored you, the
Mhm.
whole and the healed Lindsay is your connection to God.
Yeah.
Did would you say that was something that was missing prior to? Like what was your relationship with God like prior?
Oh, that's so good. If I'm gonna be hot,
Come
I
on and be
okay. I believe that I believed that I was living a Christian life, but I was half foot in, half foot out.
mm,
Meaning, I would say, God, I believe you to heal my body, but I wouldn't really believe it. Or I would say, I'm a believer of Christ. I believe in Jesus Christ. He is the Lord of my life. But then I would do things that definitely did not um,
reflect.
reflect that he was Lord over my life.
Mm,
And it just it didn't help me to be a good person for me. And then that would also reflect within my relationships with my mother, with my brother, with the people around me, the things that I would say to them. I just was not reflecting the best version of me. And to kind of
mm,
go back to your question of, the differences between the old Lindsay and this Lindsay, um, because I am so clear on who I am in him, with him, with Christ. Um, when my mother, like literally the other night, I could tell my mother was off, something was wrong. And I was like, just tell me, what's the matter? And she started to share, and she was like, I'm just really sad because, financially, da, da, da. And it was so easy for me to bring back up scripture and
mm,
to speak life and to say, you're worried about this, but the word says that if he could take care of the lilies in the valleys and
yes.
all these things can, what, who are we that he's not going to take care of us?
Hello.
And being able to speak life into her, pouring into her, because I am my best self right now, it then becomes reflective onto her. Then
Mm.
she then becomes her best. So it multiplies.
Oh, oh, oh,
Okay.
oh, oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
So
Woo! Jesus.
that's another way I've been able to maintain it all, because I want
Yeah.
to make sure that the people around me, I always in my prayer, I always say, God, help those who interact with me meet you first.
Mm.
I don't want them to go, I remember when I was transitioning out of the job in Seattle, and everyone was like, you're so like kind and so professional and loving. And I'm like, this ain't me. Because the Lindsay before would have cussed you out real fast. But this person, I have nothing to worry about. This is just a job.
Mm.
There are things happening in our lives that are bigger than this.
Mhm.
Why would I allow that to stress me out?
Mm.
And I remember it's a choice. I'm choosing to allow this to rattle me. I'm not going to do that. It's
Mm.
not worth that to me.
Mm. Oh my God, y'all! Listen to my best friend. Okay, that's my best friend.
You're so funny.
But no, I mean, just because I think I've shared this with you is one, I'm so proud of you.
Mm.
Because it has almost appeared, right? Just an appearance that you have been running from this Lindsay.
Yeah.
You've been running from her who is bold, audacious, and just really like a bad chick, right? Like a boss and all so many different right.
Ah,
And so this version of you, this best version of you is like, man, people fall in love with you so
aw.
easily, right? Like you represent the salt and the light all the time. And there I think it's safe to say, right, that this is what God has been wanting from you, but he had to put you in a place of obscurity in order for you to
That's
get
it.
that out of you.
That's
And so
it.
if you could do it all over again and you knew it was obscurity you were going into, would you have given God your yes?
Probably not. If I'm being honest, because it took a lot of work. And the
Mm,
Lindsay before, remember, wasn't so disciplined and was very hard headed and did want to do things her way. But God said, sis, I had enough. Your way ain't working. I got things for you to do, and you take it too long. So for me to use you, you gotta go through the rebirth. You need to
yes.
find out who you are again. You got to love you again. I had to love me. I had to appreciate. I mean, I would even put uh I know a lot of people do this, but I would put words on my mirror to speak to myself. I hated my body. I hated the way I looked. And so I would say things like, I love your skin. I started with the little things. I love the
Yeah.
mole on your face. I love your smile. I love that you're putting in energy and you're putting in work. If I'm working out and I want to quit, these are the exact words I say to myself. Every step counts for the end goal. Every
Mhm.
step you take counts for that result that you're looking for. And I would
Yes.
speak that to myself. I learned to speak
Oh,
like
that's good.
it. Yeah, girl. Because I didn't want to be like, I quit. This is enough. No. Get 2 more reps in. You're fine. You're good. You're good. You can do it. You can do it. But it's worked for me. I learned my boundaries. I learned that it's okay to say no.
Yes.
And that's something you and I have been trying to work on forever.
Forever.
But I that is a lesson I learned even with my family.
Mhm.
And that was a
Mhm.
big one for me because I always want my family to be around. But like yesterday, I was like, she reached her max. I got to go. Bye-bye. I love you guys. Ta-ta, bye-bye. No, she gotta go.
But I think your family, your friends, we deserve the healthy you.
Yes.
Right? Like we need the healthy Lindsay.
Yeah.
We want to be around the healthy Lindsay. And for a long time we knew you were there, right? But there was still like a factor, there
Yeah.
was still something that was lacking, and it was just the relationship with God. But it's so strong and so solid now.
Mm.
What, because I know our time is coming up short, what is something that you would share with women who have been in your place, have been in those shoes of yours, of old
Mm.
Lindsay, that are probably walking those shoes right now? What words of wisdom can you give them to avoid the snares and the traps of going backwards into a place where there was a struggle, or if they're heavy in the struggle? What can you say to them right now to help them in their obscurity, rebirth, and transition?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to step into that space.
Mm.
Just know that that space is meant for you and only you. Don't be afraid to do the work. It's going to be hard, but the outcome is worth all of that. Um, don't rush through it. Don't be ashamed of it. I went through a space of shame. Um, the shame is not necessary, or I shouldn't say it's not necessary. Just don't put that level of stress on yourself, because so many people wish that they could be in a space of obscurity. So many people wish that they can go, I need a timeout. I need a break. I need a moment where I can just get myself together. And if God allows for you to have that space, take it. it's yours to take and do with it what you have to do. So it's a special space. I feel like God has, this is a space where of preparation, because there's so many things that I know are coming. And if I were not in this space, I did not go through what I went through, I would not be able to attack or to go through what's coming, good or bad. I am prepared. I am not afraid. I am stronger. And I have more confidence in myself to walk through that space. And I feel like those of you that are in it, the light is there. It's a good space to be in. That's what I would share. Love on it and love on you in the space.
Yes. And something you shared along, but we didn't really tap into. But if you could speak on it, as we're coming to a close, I'm definitely going to pray us out since we didn't pray in. But could you speak to how beneficial therapy was to the process? Because
Yeah, oh my
God, and your therapy experience.
Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't even. Yes, I'm so mad at myself for not speaking on it.
It's okay.
Okay, first of all, I have to say you need to get you a friend that is also a therapist, not because she was my therapist, because I tried to make Janice my therapist and she was like, nope, it ain't happening. However, I gave her all the excuses of why not that I didn't think I needed therapy, but just to find the therapist, I was like, homegirl was like, we're gonna find you a therapy today. So she was on the phone with me. She was like, found one. I think you'll like her. Give it a try. And I was like, okay. So she gave me no choice. Okay. None. And I met my therapist and it was instant. Here's what I'm going to say. Something that my therapist shared with me. She said, when you're looking for a therapist, it's like dating. You have to find the one that works for you. Do not assume like the first person that you start talking to is the right fit for you. The minute you don't feel safe, you get someone else. And her telling me that made me feel so powerful. Like, wow, I actually I have the right to choose what works for me. It's not just what you tell me. And it felt so good. And that's how I knew she was going to be my other best friend, because she was so real and raw. And she understood what I was trying to say. She gave me the space to work the things out, to talk them out, to come up with the answers on my own. She never forced anything on me, but she also wasn't afraid to help guide me through. She kept it real, and I needed that. And she applauded me when I needed it. And I was like, okay, I think I need to see you every day. And she was like, but you don't, because you're actually putting in the work. Here's why I think that you're doing well. If you need a touch up, okay. But to think that you need to go to therapy every single day, every single week, no, Lindsay, because you are applying what we've worked through. And I was like, oh, I thought therapy, I gotta have you for the rest of my life. She was like, no, honey, that's not how it works. I didn't know, right? I didn't know. And so I loved her. She put language to the things that I couldn't find words to. She helped remind me that I'm not insane. I'm not crazy. You are not crazy. She validated. She said, how you feel is how you feel, and you have every right to feel that way. And sometimes hearing that from someone else that's not so close to you, it makes the difference. I can't help explain why, but for me, it did. And I treasure that the moment. And now I tell everybody, you need a therapist. You need a therapist. Go get therapy. And it's not because I'm trying to say, oh, you suck as a person. No, it helped me so much that I feel like everybody should be enlightened and woken up and supported in that way. And so it's powerful. I love you. I love you, therapists. I love it.
I love to say that like therapy is a reparative relationship, right? So it's like it's you being able to repair the areas within that have been broken that need to be repaired, wherever the
Mhm.
rupture was, like therapy helps to be reparative to that. And the fact that she gives you agency off
Mhm.
the cuff to be like, you get to decide yes or no. I
Mhm.
think that is the key to any great therapist is you can tell me no because it's
Yeah.
you having the agency and very much being empowered to say whether you want to work with me or not, as well as I get to say, okay, I don't know if we're a good fit either, but you get the power to choose. And most often that's been taken away from us some way, shape, or form through the
Yeah.
trauma that we've experienced. And so you
She
got the power to choose.
she was great.
Well, best friend, thank you for
Thank
gracing
you.
podcast. Oh, I can't wait until people are just smitten by you and
Hmm.
you take the world by storm. If y'all see her at Alaska
Say
on the
hi.
airlines,
Say hi.
say hello, say that you heard her on the podcast and give her some and show her some love. But Lindsay, I'm gonna take you down the stage and I'm gonna close out. All right.
Okay. Yep.
I love you. Well, you guys, you have heard it straight from Lindsay's mouth of what it is about walking through obscurity and transition and what that eventually boils out to a rebirth. And it did not come by herself, it came with her connection and her relationship with God, strengthening that, allowing herself to fully surrender to God, allowing herself to fully walk through, allowing her to go down and come back up, right? It's a low place, it's very humbling, but more so important, like it's very healing. And she went through therapy. She allowed herself to be in a space where she would go to church virtually, right? And laying hands on herself and really getting in God's scripture and making sure that there is a spiritual connection first and then walking out everything else as a result of that. Loving on herself, going to therapy, right? Advocating for herself, speaking, her watching her self-talk, watching her affirmations and what she spoke over herself, being able to now take the seed that was sown into her and pour that seed out into her family, into her friends, and allow that seed to be multiplied. Right? Where are you in your place of obscurity? Are you allowing the obscurity in where you are right now for you and your connection with God to be multiplied? Are you allowing God to pour into you in this time and in this space? Are you allowing what God is doing to take place? Right? Are you not fighting it, not resisting it? Are you just saying yes to it? Allow there to be a rebirth as a result of your time in obscurity. And listen, like if you're like Lindsay and you didn't know you were in obscurity until you heard someone give you the language of what obscurity looks like, I'm here to tell you, you're in obscurity. You're in a place where it's just you and God. And I think there's a scripture where it says, where God says, come, let us reason together. And so if this is the time where, especially we're at the end of the year and God is just calling us to be very reflective and meditate and listen and come to him, this might be the time for you to go into obscurity. Receive it. Lindsay said, don't fight against it, but do the work. Do what you need to do to allow the rebirth to happen. And if that's okay, it's okay that it's in obscurity. It's okay that it happens through transition. There's something beautiful that's going to come as a result of it. And maybe like Lindsay, maybe it'll be some peace. We didn't pray in, but we're definitely going to pray out. And so, Father, I just praise you. I give you the glory. I thank you, Lord, for everyone under the sound of our voice. Lord, we just pray that what was shared today can inspire someone to allow themselves to fully surrender to you in this place of obscurity, to completely surrender to the rebirthing process that you're doing in them, bringing them out, taking them in one way, but bringing them out in a more healthy and a more whole and a more surrendered posture with you. Father, we pray that their relationship grows closer and their connection with you is more intimate because of what they said yes to you, God. Lord, we pray that you would touch someone's heart and touch the areas where there really needs to be healing, and mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically, God. God, just touch the spaces of obscurity where you need to talk to your people, where your people need to come to you, where your people need to cry out, where your people need to lay down, Lord, where your people just need to surrender. Lord, and we pray that as a result of their time in obscurity, God, that you would do a rebirthing in their process. It's in the name of Jesus that I do pray. You all be blessed. I love y'all. Y'all have a great day. And I'm going to see you all on the next episode.